I'm gonna just say it. I think the 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life were coordinated by people currently in the US government. And before you think it's a conspiracy theory or a coincidence, let's just look at the evidence and then you tell me what you think. Hey guys, my name's Jason Wesley and this is not a podcast.
I'd say this is a up.
Sorry, not sure which gas company.
Somebody
them and have them respond.
on the roof. The stage is right there. Why were we not on the roof?
Football from us. You need to go somewhere over on the west side.
Why weren't we?
I know, I hear you. I know you
Didn't find him.
Yeah. Nah. I told them they need to post the guy over here. I told them that the Secret Service. I told them that Tuesday. I told them to post guys over here.
I have no contact with you.
What? No. We're inside. I told them to post guys over here.
I wasn't even concerned about it because I thought someone was on the roof. I thought that's how we. Like, how can you lose a guy walking back here?
They were
on the roof.
They were inside.
Why were we not
In the building.
Because
Football from us. You need to go somewhere over on the west side.
Why weren't we?
because I thought we were going to post guys over here. I talked to the Secret Service guys. They're like, yeah, no problem. We're going to post guys over here. Who was over here? Do you know?
Who was where?
Through the fence.
Was there?
I was against the fence right there,
There was a fence right there.
and then Butler issue guy was right there.
Was there a guy over, like, was there one of your guys, or was there a Secret Service guy over here?
And then there's these questions, like how the does this 20-year-old kid climb on that roof 150 yards away and no one sees him?
Well, that one guy was pointing at him the whole time.
Yes.
He's like pointing to, he's right there.
And they're yelling, he's got a gun. There's a guy in the prone position on a roof 150 yards away from the former president. The whole thing's nuts. The whole thing stinks of either incompetence or a design, or we're in the Matrix.
Now, it's been a couple months since Trump was shot during the first assassination attempt where he rose from the ground, pumping his fist in the air, yelling, "Fight!" And the iconic picture was taken that made even Mark Zuckerberg shift his opinions.
Yeah, I mean, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But, and I think, look, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit.
And then after that, in late August 2024, Zuckerberg came out and admitted that the Biden administration had pressured him and Meta to censor free speech. But this video isn't about that. Now, I wasn't going to do a video about the assassination attempt, but I've got a lot of questions and not a lot of time, so I'm not going to get into the deep minutia of the case. But I hope after watching this, you question what you're told to believe, like you questioned the Vegas shooter. Oh wait, you forgot about that, didn't you? Oh yeah, and I'm also not going to get into the infiltration of the Secret Service a few years ago.
2 men charged with posing as federal agents for over 2 years. Aryan Taharzadeh and Haider Ali appearing before a judge Thursday after allegedly convincing several Secret Service agents they were Homeland Security officers. FBI agents raided the 2 men's luxury apartment building Wednesday, where a federal prosecutor revealed law enforcement discovered Ali's passport, stamped with visas for Iran and Pakistan, as well as weapons and police equipment inside, including a loaded Glock 19, sniper spotting equipment, body armor, and at least 1 drone.
And I'm not even gonna get into the spy that infiltrated the Secret Service 20 years ago either.
I was in Moscow in 2005 with this spy, and we sent an email to people in power on a temporary assignment to Moscow. This woman's a freaking spy. The email's out there. Someone should FOIA it. And you know what they told us? Keep your mouth shut. She's not a spy. We're working with her. Trust us. She's a spy. Oh, you think I'm making it up? Media people, Dan Arkin, grow a pair of balls. FOIA the Secret Service for any emails sent about the Moscow embassy and the woman working in there. Her name was Anna.
Anyways, just to recap, Donald Trump was doing a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania when a shooter that we now know as Thomas Matthew Crooks was just outside the secure area perimeter with a rangefinder that the Secret Service and local PD knew about prior to losing him in the crowd and prior to Trump being placed on the X, which is the spot that he's supposed to be standing when he's speaking. Apparently, he made his way onto a roof. People were saying that there was a ladder. He posted up. People in the crowd saw him with a gun on the roof and started yelling, notifying law enforcement.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. Right on the roof. It's much tougher than
Crooks was noticed and then approached by a local police officer, and then Crooks aims his rifle to shoot the officer, and he fell, injuring his ankle, and then Crooks fired several shots at Trump, hitting Trump in the ear and murdering firefighter Corey Comparator, who was an attendee in the crowd that shielded his family before a counter-sniper team fired back at Crooks, hitting him in the head and killing him. Now, idiots online were saying that Trump coordinated this assassination attempt on himself so he could get some sort of sympathy.
That was more staged than a Tyler Perry production of Medea Runs for President. This was, I believe, done to try to show his strength counter to Biden's fragility.
Other idiots said that Trump wasn't hit by a bullet, that maybe it was a piece of shrapnel.
Still don't know for sure whether Donald Trump was hit by a bullet, whether he was hit by glass fragments, whether he was hit by shrapnel.
Who done lied 30,000 plus times is the only person as of today who done said he got hit by a motherfucking bullet.
Bruh, faking being shot, trying to win an election. This crazy. He's gone reality crazy. And the director of the FBI insinuated the same thing.
With respect to former President Trump, there's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that that hit his ear. So it's conceivable. Although, as I sit here right now, I don't know whether that bullet, in addition to causing the grazing, could have also landed somewhere else.
And then the deputy director of the FBI, however, eventually cleared the air.
You are the deputy director of the FBI, is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Is there any doubt in your mind or in the collective mind of the FBI that President Trump was shot in the ear by a bullet fired by the assassin Crooks?
Senator, there is absolutely no doubt in the FBI's mind whether former President Trump was hit with a bullet and wounded in the ear. No doubt, there never has been.
Okay.
I've been part of this investigation since the very beginning, and that has never been raised.
You're sure?
Yes.
It wasn't a space laser.
No.
It wasn't a murder hornet.
Absolutely not.
It wasn't Sasquatch.
No, Senator.
It was a bullet.
It was a bullet, Senator. 100%.
Fired by Crooks.
Yes, sir.
That hit President Trump in the ear and almost killed him.
100%, Senator.
Democrats initially came out and painted Thomas Crooks as a Republican. But then later we found out that he donated to Progressive Turnout Project via Act Blue, a left-wing Democrat organization.
This shooter, he was a registered Republican. He also donated $15 to Act Blue in 2021, which is an odd thing, but he was a Republican.
Crooks made the donation on January 20th, 21, the same day President Biden was inaugurated. At that point, he would have been 17 years old. He was not eligible to register as a Republican or vote in the 2020 election at the time. But you would have imagined that a 20-year-old would have had some sort of online presence, right? So far, the only account that was confirmed to have belonged to Crooks was on a social media platform, Discord. And if you know anything about Discord, it was probably because he had a Monopoly Go account or something. The company told media that the account was rarely utilized, and we found no evidence that it was used to plan this incident, promote violence, or discuss his political views. One of Crooks's classmates said that he was into computers, though.
I had some kind of passion for computers, so...
It's not 1991. The kid was 20 years old. No online presence, no social media presence, but you're into computers? His former classmates said that he tried to join the rifle team but didn't make it because of how terrible a shot he was.
Fellow students say he was smart and a loner who was rejected by the rifle team, in part for being such a bad shot.
He didn't make it onto the rifle team. From what I've heard, he was just not a good shot.
a horrible shot.
Now let's get back to the rally. Apparently Secret Service didn't have a drone for air superiority, but crooks cased the place with a drone hours before the rally. Gunmen at Trump rally had drone in car, possibly to scope out the site. Investigators have information that suggests a man intent on assassinating former President Trump flew the device over the campaign event location on the day of the shooting.
To my knowledge, he did not fly the drone over the entire area.
How did he fly a drone over the area, period? Any part of the area?
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event.
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
Secret Service as well as local PD didn't have anyone on the roof of the building that crooks climbed onto that day because the roof was too hot and because it was sloped at an angle. At least that's what the head of the Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, said at the time.
Can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Okay. One of the things that you said, I believe, in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal, and do you fear that immediately creates an opportunity for future would-be assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been reports that agents were supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
I should have been more clear in my answer when I spoke about where we placed personnel in that interview.
And apparently there were temporary Secret Service agents assigned to Trump's detail the day of the shooting, but Kim Cheadle didn't know how many.
There are reports that several agents assigned to the rally on July 13th were temporary agents not normally assigned to President Trump. Is that accurate?
What I can tell you is that the agents that were assigned to former President Trump are Secret Service agents that provide close protection to him, and that was what was actual on that day.
How many temporary agents were there that day?
Quite frequently, sir, during campaign events, the Secret Service utilizes agents from HSI or the Department of Homeland Security.
You don't know how many?
Supplement
you can't answer?
Our plan.
Now, if there was a Manning issue, why wasn't that handled before? We have the ability to hire 80,000 new IRS agents to steal Americans' money.
The IRS bulking up. The bill expected to pass Congress will send nearly $80 billion to the agency over the next 10 years. The plan for the extra cash is to hire 87,000 new IRS agents. That could help speed up processing, with some taxpayers waiting as long as 10 months for refunds.
But we can't find enough money for 7 Secret Service agents? It's not like the Secret Service didn't already know about the threat from Iran towards Trump.
Yeah, the 3 men have been charged with trying to assassinate Donald Trump during the presidential campaign, and doing so under the instruction of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The criminal complaint alleges that an Iranian asset was told to hire people in the United States to conduct surveillance on Donald Trump and ultimately to try to assassinate him. They were told that money was no object whatsoever, but if they couldn't get the plan together within 7 days, then they were to wait until Donald Trump loses the election, they were told, when the Iranians believed it would be easier to kill him.
But even with the increased threat on Trump, Kim Cheadle still didn't give him the security that he needed, and CNN, of all outlets, caught her fumbling.
Was every element, every part of his, from the intelligence to the counter-assault team, to the detail agents, to the shift agents, I mean every element, top to bottom, of the advance in the operation, was every element increased after you learned of this credible threat?
What we increased was what we felt was appropriate for the former president and for that particular event on that day. We have been increasing the assets and the resources and the staffing that we have been providing to the former president since he was a presidential candidate and then the presumptive nominee. That's what I can tell you.
That sounds like enough.
She had the nerve to say that they allocate based on title, not based on threat. Your security. That's literally what you're supposed to do. You allocate based on the threat level.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the sitting president.
So your answer is he didn't.
And continuity of government and the responsibility that we have.
So he did not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team, the full CAT team on site. There wasn't counter-surveillance teams on site. You just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't.
Now, one of the perspectives that people have been discussing was the 2 female Secret Service agents. Now, watch them fumble around with their firearm. One is putting her glasses back on and looking uncoordinated about what to do. Now, look at the height of President Trump. She can't block his head and only comes up to his nipple. People have asserted that the DEI push of increasing the number of female agents is going to get someone killed. Here's the head of Secret Service talking about the DEI initiative in the Secret Service.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
Now, no one is saying that there shouldn't be female Secret Service agents because we still have female protectees, and having female agents able to go in the female areas like bathrooms can be very valuable. But if you aren't at least the size of the protectee or at least close to it, you should not qualify to be the literal bodyguard for that person. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked whether female agents can do the job, and here's her answer.
Specifically, whether women are up to the job. People are noting that they're smaller, that they weren't able to cover the president, but I mean, this is a talking point that is circulating. So what's your response?
That's ridiculous. To your second question, obviously it's ridiculous. Look, you heard from the secretary. These men and women put their lives on the line. What they're doing is brave. And we should not discount that. We should not discount that if it's a man or if it's a woman. And to have that sentiment out there is unfair and it's ridiculous.
Now let's talk about the head of the Secret Service real quick, Kim Cheadle. At the time, I'm supposed to believe that the head of the Secret Service that seemed to miss a pipe bomb placed outside of the DNC January 6th that Kamala conveniently never wants to talk about.
Details about another alleged security failure for the Secret Service. This one dates back to the Capitol attack on January 6th involving a close call for now Vice President Kamala Harris. According to a new Homeland Security report, Harris walked within 20 feet of a pipe bomb. It was planted in the bushes right outside the Democratic National Committee headquarters. The report describes how two Secret Service K-9 teams searched the area but failed to find the explosives. Federal authorities are still trying to determine who planted that pipe bomb.
Passed a female recruit to meet DEI goals that then had a mental breakdown while protecting Vice President Kamala Harris. An incident involving a physical attack by a female Secret Service agent tasked with protecting Vice President Kamala Harris is raising questions about whether the agency had thoroughly vetted her during her hiring and whether an ongoing push to increase the numbers of women in the service and boost overall workforce staff played a role in her selection. A head of the Secret Service that had no clue who left the cocaine in the White House.
The Secret Service investigation into cocaine found at the White House last week has concluded without any solid leads. A summary of the investigation shows that no fingerprints, DNA samples, or other physical evidence turned up on the bag. Investigators were also unable to identify possible suspects through video evidence.
Deletes texts about January 6th.
CBS News obtained a letter from the Inspector General that says the messages were wiped as, quote, part of a device replacement program. It goes on to say the U.S. Secret Service erased those messages after OIG requested records of electronic communication from the USSS as part of our evaluation of the events at the Capitol on January 6th.
And now almost gets a former president killed, says the buck stops with her, and I'm supposed to believe that she's supposedly great at her job? Well, she resigned a week after questioning with no real answers. Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle fails to answer basic questions and must resign following historic security failures at President Trump's rally. Now, I already did an episode where we covered where Democrats were saying that Donald Trump should have his Secret Service taken away. But there were reports out there that the Donald Trump detail, the DTD, had been requesting more assets but were continually denied. And the current acting director of the Secret Service, Ron Rowe, said it wasn't true.
Is that right, that repeatedly the Trump detail asked for more resources and repeatedly Secret Service leadership turned that down?
That is not accurate, Senator.
But later we found out it was true.
That's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge change in 5 days. And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
And less than 2 weeks after the assassination attempt during an investigation, Crooks' body was released silently to the family and cremated.
This is from Clay Higgins. My effort to examine Crooks' body on Monday, August 5th caused quite a stir and revealed a disturbing fact. The FBI released the body for cremation 10 days after July 13th. On July 23rd, Crooks was gone. Nobody knew this until Monday, August 5th, including the county coroner. Law enforcement, sheriff, etc. Yes, Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but I spoke with the coroner, and he would never have released Crooks's body to the family for a cremation or burial without specific permission from the FBI.
Now, I guess that wouldn't normally be a big deal, I guess, unless you wanted to know who actually shot Crooks, among other things. But really, I know this information only creates more questions than answers. And here's a great question by Representative Mike Kelly asking one of the most obvious questions.
But I still can't understand, of all the different people that were on the grounds that day, thousands of people, there's only one consistent person that they identify, and it is ultimately the shooter. So I don't believe the grounds were safe and secure that day. I'm just trying to understand is what it was or what it would have taken for somebody to say, keep Mr. Trump inside until we clear this up.
So based on that question, of us knowing that Crooks was suspicious and a potential threat long before he gets on the roof and fires the first shot, why the hell would Secret Service allow Trump on the X prior to neutralizing or mitigating that potential threat that they already knew was there? Why was that one building, that one position that had a line of sight towards the president not covered by Secret Service or local PD? And if you don't have someone on that roof, you have someone covering that roof from a higher vantage point. Listen, if you showed any 12-year-old that plays Call of Duty an area like that and said, if you want to shoot someone standing on that X, where would you post up? They would tell you on the top of every single one of those buildings that had a line of sight to the X. And if you were to ask that same 12-year-old, if you had to protect someone standing on that X and you had 20 men with firearms, where would you place those men? Guaranteed they will tell you the most obvious spots on top of every high vantage point with a line of sight to the X. So you can't tell me that a random 20-year-old that didn't make his high school rifle team because he was such a terrible shot, that has the body build of Napoleon Dynamite, climbed onto a building, ran across, posted up, and fired a grouping of shots where one actually hits former President Trump in the side of his head, that he did not have help. But here's where the story actually gets even more interesting. Someone that visited Crooks's address also visited the vicinity of an FBI office. Trump shooter mobile tracking data shows devices traveling to Washington, D.C., Massachusetts. Analysis of the mobile ad location data, according to the Oversight Project, shows that someone who regularly visits Crooks's home and place of work at a local nursing home also visited the Gallery Place shopping center in Washington, D.C. on June 26, 2023. The tracked device shows location data just a block away from the U.S. Secret Service headquarters building and in the vicinity of an FBI office building, according to the Oversight Project data. And based on a new report, we still have so many questions and still very few answers. New report details stunning Secret Service leadership failures around first Trump assassination attempt. Some of the problems highlighted include the Secret Service failing to set up visual barriers around the rally that may have blocked shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks' view of Trump, the lack of a plan on how to secure the building the shooter took aim from, and the general chaos of communication around the shooter's movement leading up to the attempt on the former president's life.
In 2024, he went to the range for target practice 3 to 6 times a month, almost exclusively training with rifles, not handguns, and made one final visit the day before shooting Trump. The shooting range was crawling with feds. Multiple local and federal law enforcement agencies trained at this facility, including the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees Secret Service.
Will you